The last project Clonmel Tourism carried out was selective tree pruning on the River Anner. One time the River Anner was actually a very famous salmon spawning river, actually very near like the Bulmers cider factory just beside it. As you'll see now, as you go up along the Anner, possibly hasn't been any maintenance work carried out for 40 or 50 years. This was why we actually took this project on. Up around the areas of Killusty, it was virtually tunnelled to where the water was actually at a standstill. Here now is a short video showing the types of work we carried out over the Anner over a 2-year period when we were in receipt of conservation funding.
Encountered a lot of fallen trees whose trapped debris was causing barriers to migrating fish, as well as vast sections of bank erosion. This eroded soil and silt washes away from the bank and lodges indiscriminately on spawning gravels, making it extremely difficult for fish to spawn in these areas. By removing the fallen trees, we help prevent this process of bank erosion, as well as allowing the free passage of migrating fish.
Clonmel Tourism, I suppose the only word I could use, was shocked when they looked for Phase 2 funding for the River Anner. I think possibly more than any community group out there, we've had more things wrote about the actual work we carried out. We featured on Nationwide a few times. Actually, even Derek Davis appeared with us a couple of years ago on Out of the Blue. Professor Martin O'Grady featured us in 2 of his books on his 20-year survey, all places that before we ever even met the man, all places that he surveyed, anywhere we done work, actually showed the density of fish per square metre at least 500 to 600 more than the norm, percentage-wise. So, you know, we just wonder, like, who are the people actually overseeing the actual allocation of money? And maybe it's time to actually, maybe people from Salmon Watch Ireland should actually be on the panel of actually identifying where best this money could be spent. As you will see now, there's actually an urgency to continue this work on the River Anner. And we actually, Phase 2 must happen. Behind my back, we have an absolute stretch of water that's completely tunnelled. By tunnelling, I mean there's just a canopy. So it's absolutely just closed in and there's no aquatic plant life on the bed of the river. So what we have here is a lot of silt. As you see, there's a load of low-hanging branches. So they need to be pruned. And by doing that and opening the canopy, we will leave in a balance of sunlight. So we need shade, but we also need some sunlight for the plants to grow. By doing that, then we're going to set up a food chain. You have a lot of invertebrate living in the plants like ranunculus, and possibly 600% of an increase in fish fry. From working over 30 years on river habitat, I'd like to give, and these are my own personal opinions, okay? So, of the rivers in Ireland that the conservation money is going to, like, there's only 48 rivers open, there's 33 on catch and release, and there's 66 closed with no sustainable surface available. I think all conservation money must go to these 99 rivers, because we have to surely start at the bottom and work our way up. Also, I think we should narrow down the types of actual development work we need to do. I think there's 4 categories. The first one is obviously the free movement of migrating fish, or the movement of fish any time during the year. Secondly, I'd recommend tree pruning. Thirdly, I think we should concentrate anywhere there's erosion. There should be soft engineering used to combat that erosion. And last Anywhere there's stretches which have been dredged or they're straight like canals, they should be turned into riffle glide and pools. I think we stuck to those principles over the next 20 years, we actually would bring the stocks of Atlantic salmon back up where they belong. Here's a typical project that we started on the Aherlow River in County Tipperary. We done phase 1 of this project, and then IFI stepped in and they carried out phase 2. It was a huge success. I got a phone call from a fisherman a year after we did the work, and he said he saw a pair of fish spawning in a place that he grew up on, and he said in 40 years he never saw fish there. So overall it was a very positive outcome.
We're here on the banks of the Aherlow River, which is a main tributary of the River Suir in County Tipperary. The problem in this area, and on the Aherlow generally, is the overgrowth of vegetation within the channel. We can see here all these large trees which are actually seeded and growing out from the banks and within the channel. This is causing two major problems for the fisheries aspect of the river. Number one, it slows down the flow, so sediment drops to the bottom. This sediment and silt actually clogs the gravels, so therefore when salmon and trout come up to spawn, there's no spawning gravels there, because there's, in places here we have up to 12 and 18 inches of basic silt. So by removing some of this, the river will start cleaning itself again. The other problem it has, you can imagine this place in the middle of summer and autumn, the amount of shade all of these trees cause, which is letting absolutely no light into the bed of the river, so we have no plant life in the river, there's nothing for the fish to eat. Recent surveys, both in 1993 and again in 2011, have shown that there is very little fish, in particular salmon, in the River Aherlow. So our plan here will be to remove some of this vegetation. Obviously we don't want to take it all out, but we do want to remove the in-stream vegetation and some of the bankside vegetation, so that the river will go back to its natural course and basically clean the spawning gravels. Now, people may be aware that sometimes woody debris in rivers is a good thing, because there is insects living on those trees, but when you get an overgrowth of it, the balance is out of kilter, so we have to try and just bring it back to what should be good for both species of salmon, trout, birds, vegetation, and bring it all back into balance again. The method we are going to use here is to selectively prune this vegetation, is the use of a tree shears at the end of an excavator. The excavator will be parked here on the bank. It will reach in and basically shear off the vegetation, grab it and place it out on the bank where it can be dealt with safely. It will be sawn into lengths and mulched and dealt with, so no personnel will enter the river, no machinery will enter the river.
So we're now just starting back work here on the Aherlow River. So we would have cleared this in 2017. So you can just see now the willow starting to come back. So every 4 to 5 years you have to come back and do a maintenance thing of just getting rid of the suckers again. But you can see the river is in absolutely fantastic condition here. When we came here in 2017, this river was totally closed in. So you can just see here now, just with small maintenance here, we've opened it up. There's a lovely glide in front of me here, and you have a lovely riffle coming down here. So that's where the auction is for the young salmon to feed all the fries feed off of. And there's a pool just above it, and we won't touch where the pool is, and that's where you want your shading.
There, look. See him there. Come back, Simon. Look, he's going down the way under the log. See him here, look.
Yeah, you actually hunt him up there, Paul.
Get up, look.
Yeah.